ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Someone who, to the best of my knowledge, did not marry his first cousin, but did something equally unorthodox, is he gave his son the same name, but with a different spelling. It's very bizarre, but that is the only bizarre thing about Brian Kilmeade. He is a straight as an arrow guy, very normal guy, quite a soccer player, a New York Times bestselling author, no less, the co-anchor of Fox and Friends on Fox News, and a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. Hello there, Brian. What is going on with these drones, Brian? Is it Iran? Is it China? Is it the military? Is it aliens? Be honest. You've got to know.
Well, I don't think anyone knows, and it's crazy because people walk out of these briefings more frustrated than they do when they go in. There's been over 350 sightings, some of the same drone. I like what Jeff Van Drew did. I don't know if he even believes it's true, but he came out there and said Iran is off our coast and they're shooting drones to observe us in New Jersey and Staten Island. And the fact is then the Pentagon quickly scrambled to come out. The governor came out. No, it's not true. It's not true. Well, you know what? What is true? You tell us don't worry about it. We don't think it's from another country, but you don't think it's from our country. You acknowledge that it's there, but then you don't acknowledge that we have reason to be concerned, although they can't tell us why we shouldn't be concerned. I've never seen anything quite like it. When we get the answer to this, it's probably going to be more aggravating, but this just goes to show you a mystery. The last lap of this Biden administration is one mystery after another, and it just seems to be a level of disinterest I didn't think was possible.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating from a psychological perspective, a governmental one, and every possible situation. By the way, we had a big party here last night for Suzanne Miller, and there was a cardboard cutout of you that greeted everybody when people came out of the elevator. And I had to deal with a complaint or two from Curtis Lewa, who said, you tell your friend Brian Kilmeade that there are 3 cardboard cutouts of him and there are none of Curtis Lewa. Brian, any explanation for that?
Couple of things. Number one, I went years without any cardboard cutout. And there might have been an overcompensation for those years that have gone by. Number two, why have a cardboard cutout of Curtis? He's everywhere.
Exactly.
So, you need one of me because I wasn't able to be there because of the morning show commitments. And I actually had to run out to another event last night after doing special report. So it didn't really work out for my schedule. But in January, I'm going to have my annual drain Brian's bank account and celebrate WABC and the Brian Kilmeade Show Christmas, which, Frank, you better come this year.
Yeah, I missed last year. Although last year was one of those ones that it was not around Christmas. It was at a different time, right? But I'm going to be there this year, no matter what.
Well, I'm doing after. I'm going to go in January because it's just too busy for you guys.
Great. Well, I will be there happily, and I will do my best to contribute to the efforts to drain your bank account, which I know is substantial. All right. Speaking of people that are out, Chris Wray is out. He's resigning when the Biden administration ends. Not a shock here. Kash Patel is coming in. Well, that's at least who President Trump would like to come in. Give me the handicapped prospects of Kash Patel and his confirmation. Couple of people have, said that he may have a problem. How do you see it?
I think he's doing a lot better than everyone thought. When they first came out, they said, this is like, this is a very polarizing figure.
Well, they compared him to Gates.
But the more you look at it, the more you look at it, the more you hear what he had to say. You can read his book. And I think that he's going to bring a level of order and responsibility. What you got to do is, and what Trump did yesterday in a very expansive Truth Social post, he went out of his way to say, the rank and file guys are great. I'm worried about the 7th floor in the FBI building in Washington, D.C. That's the floor that Kash Patel's got a gut. But the other guys and women doing a fantastic job. I mean, for the most part, we're seeing a lot of apprehensions. The fact that there has not been an attack is a victory for them, considering they left the border wide open. That was not the FBI's decision. But, I mean, Christopher Wray was ridiculous. I mean, saying Trump didn't get hit with a bullet. Oh, it might have been shrapnel. It might have been something else. I mean, what is that about? Instead of how the hell did they pull off this assassination attempt? 2 of them, that's his answer. Oh, and by the way, Iran's trying to kill him. Okay, fine. And then we got to worry about those Catholics. They could be militarized when it comes to their pro-life commitment. And then we got to worry about parents over in Virginia. So, I mean, there's some things that just are inexplainable. And when you lose Chuck Grassley, the most reasonable person in the Senate, he said, I'm done with you. He does not provide the documents necessary in a timely manner, does not come forward and say things transparently. And when you lose, the guy's 92 years old.
Yeah.
He doesn't play the game. Trump has no leverage over him. That's when you realize this is pretty serious. He's got to go.
You know, I've had a problem with Chris Wray from the very beginning. And honestly, this was one of my issues with the first Trump administration, which is how did Trump pick all these people to begin with? And I mean, I know you can't answer that, but I'm hoping.
Well, I can tell you.
No, please go ahead.
I can tell you about. We know about Chris Christie, who I'm friendly with. I think he's a great guy. He picked Christopher Wray. Said to Trump, "This is your guy. He's straight as an arrow. He's my lawyer. Help me with Bridgegate. And what do you think?" And he said, "All right, Chris, if you think so, I'll go with it." He had an impressive interview, and at which time he became part of the situation instead of part of the solution. And what I think Patel's going to do is he is going to turn over the tables. You know, he's going to walk in and he's going to almost overcompensate and then bring the temperature down. That's what I think. But one thing, he's got an interesting experience. He's not inexperienced.
Oh, yeah.
He's got all his beliefs in his book. So go ahead, question him on his book, and let's see his answer. This is good for the nomination process.
Oh, I completely agree. How do you think last week it seemed like your former colleague Pete Hegseth was having a tough time? In a week, it seems like his prospects have really improved. President Trump reiterated his support for him. Senator Joni Ernst seems to be coming around. Do you think Hegseth gets confirmed as Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, he's on track to doing just that. And the thing is, too, yesterday, I don't know if you saw, I forgot, ProPublica is working on a story that Pete Hegseth made up a story that he got admitted to West Point. And they said, we have no record even applied. And then in real time, West Point is on the record saying no record, he has not applied here. And not only did Pete apply, he got accepted, as he said, and provided the acceptance letter. So said, well, that's why we didn't publish it yet. But West Point then had to apologize. So think about this. What is West Point doing? You don't keep records at West Point on who got in and who didn't get in? So again, can you imagine if that – I don't know what's next, but I think the personal stuff I see, and I was talking to people yesterday, I go, do you see a Kavanaugh situation where you don't talk about his decisions, his judicial views, you talk about his 11th grade tryst? Or that did or didn't happen. You talk about organizing a bus trip to Fenway Park. Is this the type of thing that Pete's going to get caught up in? And almost everyone's telling me no. They'll bring up personal issue, but they'll move because, number one, you got to do a ton of these. And number two is it's already been somewhat fleshed out. And I also think in 2024, Frank, I don't think we're into this. You know, I think that when you start doing it, it's almost as if in the 90s when they overplayed their hand and talked about what Bill Clinton was up to. Okay, bad. All right, got it. Move. What about this? Okay, enough with Monica Lewinsky. And then when the elections came up, they blew up the Republican Party and blew up Newt Gingrich. I think in 2024, when Pete goes up there, it'll be like, what do you bring? And what I said last night on a special report, I think is important. The deputy is a big time executive, hedge fund guy. He also deals as private contractor with the Defense Department, so he knows how to work the Pentagon. So Pete will set the tone, talk about the mission, talk about rules of engagement, talk about the warfighter. You have another guy below him, a prestigious CEO, who's going to organize and streamline the place and and knows what it's like to deal with private contractors. And the big thing they got to do is two things they got to do. This drone thing this is a perfect circle. We have to find a way to keep up with drone technology. We got to go to school what's happening in Ukraine. We have to be able to police our east and west coast especially, and the northern and southern border. And we got to have a way that people know will bring down any drone that crosses the border. That's what he's got to work on. He's got to work on missile defense, expanding our industrial base, and let the deputy do a lot of the X's and O's, and he knows his way around the hallways. And I would pitch Pete that way.
Assuming Pete gets confirmed, or even if he doesn't, where do you think things are at this moment for Tulsi Gabbard? There's a steady drumbeat of criticism of her record on foreign policy, especially as it relates to Russia and Syria. Even some Republican senators have expressed a little bit of reluctance. I know her foreign policy views are probably a lot closer to mine than they are yours, but what do you think it means for her DNI confirmation?
I think that her great advantage, she's a fantastic communicator, incredibly confident, who can turn around at any moment and says, I'm a colonel in the military. I'm out fighting war. That streak of gray in my hair is because after fighting these wars, I have certain points of view. But the other thing she's going to say is the same thing that Pete said. My views of women in combat change because I work for the president. It's his views that matter. And that's what's making people. So when she says, when I was a Democrat and I was running for president, when I was in leadership, I was critical of Trump. And the more, I go over there back and forth, I was getting really bitter towards the Iraq war. And I saw that, we're trying to drumbeat towards Syria, and I wanted to stop it. But I'm not setting foreign policy. I'm director of national intelligence. I'm making sure the FBI and DNI, everybody is on the right page. And number two is I work for the president. Just, I'm sure Rumsfeld and all these Secretary of Defense, I don't know their point of view because they work for Bush. They work for Biden. Lloyd Austin, he's got this great resume and terrible job performance. Do you even know what he thinks?
Not only do I not know what he thinks, but he disappeared and President Biden had no idea.
I don't even know if he's doing the job now. I mean, does he even want to do the job? He seems lazy, detached. He seems reluctant, terrible public speaker. Is he inspirational? Have you ever heard anything inspirational out of him? I think that Tulsi Gabbard is going to go the old-fashioned way. She is going to earn it. She's going to sit there, Frank, and she's going to make it interesting. She's going to have to give and take. We're going to be talking about a lot on these Thursday hits. And she's going to engage. And I said, you said this about Syria. He goes, yeah, that was I said in 99. That's what I said in 2009. And here's what I say now. And now it's a totally different scene. I thought it would be better to engage Assad than allow him to go into Iran's orbit. And I was a colonel in the military. I was a congresswoman from Hawaii. I was invited, and I went. Who also went to Syria? Nancy Pelosi. So, and against George Bush's will. He's like, what are you doing? And it was one of his last years. He goes, yeah, I'm going to Syria. Really? Okay. So she went to Syria, and she talked to Assad. I think he was a brutal butcher who is running a minority government, and the only way to stay in power is to kill 500,000 people and force millions to go elsewhere. And now the result is he's got to live his life in Moscow on bunk beds with Edward Snowden. So good luck with that. So, I think that I think that you're going to see that she's going to earn. If she falters, the thing that she has a tough time is she came in as a Democrat, so Republicans are like, I'm not really dealing with her anyway. Then she became a Republican, and the Republicans go, well, those aren't my views. And Democrats go, I'm kind of bitter that she left my party. So she could be somewhat of an island, much like RFK. Longtime Democrat, flips over to Trump. He's bitter because they wouldn't let him run in the primary. They're bitter because he left the party, embarrassed the Kennedy family. And are they going to give him a hard time? So I think they're going to be slings and arrows for both of them. But I look forward. This is what I want. I want it to get to the point where they sit for the nomination and go to bat. And that's what Susan Collins and Murkowski said yesterday. I met with Pete Hegseth. Yeah, I'm going to wait for the nomination process. Good guy. Pete's a very amiable guy. This is what Trump did. Trump picked very good communicators. And even Scott Bassett. He's been on my show more than anybody else as the Treasury Secretary nominee. And in the beginning, I thought, wow, this guy's understated. But he talks quietly but impactfully. So he's got one of the lowest approval ratings of the polls that came out with Fox, Scott Bassett. But mainly because nobody knows him. Everybody knows Tulsi. You don't even need a last name like Cher. And then RFK is going to go out there. So I'm excited about it.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan and Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan and Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Ray Dalio, legendary investor and New York Times best-selling author, wants to pass along his understanding of how countries go broke because he believes the U.S. budget and debt situation needs to be addressed. To give you that knowledge, he has put the draft of his book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, online for free. It's available now at economicprinciples.org.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii in sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Brian, on another plane, Bill Belichick, his next coaching job is going to be in college, University of North Carolina. Were you surprised by this? What do you think of this move?
Stunned. I'm stunned, but it shows you the big business aspect of North Carolina. You know, the word is he's going to get his son Steve to take over in 2 years. But his statements, he said, if I take this job, he said a couple of days ago, I'm going to make sure that this North Carolina is a pathway to the NFL for players that can do it. I'm going to make sure they got the skills to work in the NFL. If they don't, I'm going to make sure they have the skills to be successful in life. And then what I think he's going to do is immediately make this a business. Now, the University of North Carolina doesn't really have a great history in football. They were 6-6 this year. Mac Brown was their best coach. They brought him back. He brought him a little bit of life, and now he's gone. And what he's going to do, I think the money's going to flow to Belichick. I think he's got a lot of demands. They say a Bible full of demands. And now he's going to have a lot of alumni, throwing money in. And he's going to set up a system. I think, and he said that fundamentally, it looks like there wasn't much for him in the NFL again this year. I thought Jacksonville for sure. And when that word came out, he's like, I want to coach again. And one of his statements was, I grew up watching my dad coach in college. I've always wanted to coach in college. 72 years old. I mean, his girlfriend is much closer to college age than his age, so she'll be able to thrive on campus. So that'll help. And I think it'll be great for her. I think it'll be great. But it just goes to show you the big business aspect. Because now you can make millions as a player in college at 19, 20. So I don't think we're going to recognize the game within 3 years. And Belichick would be one of the first to go back and really run a separate entity. There's talk, Frank, of them spinning off these athletic programs to other hedge funds.
Brian, I gotta run. Give me 10 seconds on what you're doing Saturday, if you can.
Saturday, Adam Crow's going to be joining me. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen's going to be joining me. Ben Shapiro's going to be there Saturday at 9 o'clock, and we're going to have a great show coming your way today on the Brian Kilmeade Show. Frank, thanks so much.
Sure thing. It's always a treat. Brian Kilmeade.